you need to have knives if you're gonna cut your cheese, but you don't have to have all of these. I think it's important that we show you what each knife does and you can decide which one is the best or which ones are the best for you. So we have a lot to choose here from. And I want to start with one that I think is actually the least useful, and that is the cheese plane. Now, why is that not useful? Let me show you. If you wanted to use this and put it out with your cheese on your cheese board, you'd need to have it with a firm knife. You wouldn't use it with a brie or with a gouda. And watch what I have to do with my left hand to make this work. I actually have to hold that. So you're asking your guests to hold that piece of cheese. So every person who's going to cut a piece of cheese has got to do that. Now, this is the good part of a plane. So I think planes are really cool, the cheese planes, cheese slicers, but not for a cheese board. Now, that is a beautiful curl, and I did it off this hard cheese. I could do this with Parmesan over a Caesar salad. I can use it with chocolate over a cake. And I have a good friend who gave me the tip of using it for ice cold butter and then putting that on your toast. So you no more like smushing your fresh toast with the ice cold butter that you can't get to melt. Now you can just do a little bit and have magic butter on your toast. So a great tool to have, not so great for making your cheese boards. So that's the cheese plane. So let's talk about knives for the actual cheese board making. And we have knives and something I like to call, and it is called a cheese leer. I also call it a harp. Sometimes it's called a bow harp. Sometimes it's called, they make bigger ones that are called Roquefort harps because they're used to slice blue cheese. I love it for blue cheese. This tiny little wire there, which is tightened on the ends with these little screws. And this is actually something we sell at shopboardsandco.com, is perfect for making slices. So now I've got a little slice of chev here. This is just plain chev. I could, before I do this, drizzle it with some beautiful jam or jelly. But what I like about this, let me move my brie out of the way, is that it has very little contact with the cheese so it doesn't stick. Now, can you remember like cutting a piece of cheesecake or maybe like whole cheesecake and you're serving it up, and after you get to the second piece, like that cheesecake is just sticking to the knife. So some of our cheeses today would benefit from the same kind of knife that you could use for your cheesecake, but this is cutting through this so beautifully. And if you could imagine that drizzled with a jam, like a red pepper jelly or something, that is a perfect slice option for that. Again, this is easy to clean. I'm just going to wipe this off into our basket there. And that is our cheese wire. So that is a really handy tool. And you could also, again, let's talk about butter for a second. You could cut butter into pats and then put them out. You're making the absolutely perfect breakfast brunch board, not a charcuterie board, but a breakfast brunch board. You could slice up nice little ice cold pats of butter. So that is our leer. Now let's talk on the same note, when we were just talking about the cheesecake, about our brie knife or our soft cheese knife. So notice how this has so much less knife surface than what is the traditional cheese knife. That is because you want it to stick less. So this actually is a really good knife to also use for cheesecake or something else like that, that has that high moisture content that just wants to stick to the knife like crazy. So we will talk about cutting cheese and how to cut it in a different video, but mostly what we want to do is start from the center. If you imagine we had a whole piece and we're cutting this like a pizza, but this will cut beautifully through these slices. And this is a brie that is not too gooey, but it will work with a gooey knife too. If it's super gooey, it will still kind of stick to it, but you'll be able to pull it out, and you might need to wipe it off every once in a while. But this is great. It doesn't use that sort of suction. It comes off easily, but a thicker knife like this would work less well. It would just want to stick on it like a big suction cup. So a brie knife is especially good, especially if you're a big fan of bries, camembert, triple bries, stuff like that. Look for a knife that has very little surface area. So there's our first set of knives here. I'm going to rotate our magic cheese board of cutting. We already saw our beautiful firm aged Gouda And we have a video for just nuggeting as well, but this, you can use a Parm knife for nuggeting this and breaking off big pieces, which is great. This is also, this is actually part of a set we sell at Shop Boards & Co. What I love about this is that it also is like a spatula, so you might need it to, maybe you have pieces of cheese, you want to use this as a server as well. It's lovely and dual purpose for that, but using this to cut your nuggets is a great tool. And you know, it has, like I said, multiple uses there. Now, rotating once again, when we just want to cut into sticks, or we have something like this. This is an Alpine cheese called Reading. You'll notice this is got a little break in it. So this is just naturally where the curds wanted to break apart. That doesn't make this less usable. It just means we're going to work around that. So I can use either a hatchet knife or the traditional cheese knife, and I can cut this however I want to. So let's say I'm going to cut the rind off this, even though this is an edible rind. Maybe I'm choosing not to do that today. And I could cut this into sticks, and these would be just absolutely lovely. These little guys would work just as well. I really like this if I'm cutting really firm cheeses, but maybe not as firm as a Parm or this aged cheddar, but because it just gives me a nice handle to hold on to. I can push on this, there's no sharp edge here, and it just gives me a little more stability. This is actually a great knife. I like to look for one that isn't too sharp, that I can cut with, that maybe I'm going to put this out and let my guests cut the cheese themselves. So maybe they would just want to cut this off. And by the way, those little forky things are exactly for what you think they are. They're for picking up cheese. Because this won't scratch or hurt any of my wooden boards, I'm okay with them using it. I wouldn't want to use a very sharp knife out on my cheese board, but this I might put out actually on the cheese board for my guests to use to cut a cheese that doesn't need a second hand to do it. And I just want a beautiful knife on there too to help them cut the cheeses that they want. So there you have it. Lots of different knives. Think about what cheeses you like best and make sure you pick up the knife that works the best for that cheese.